Okay, hi everyone. For the people who are watching on Instagram, for people who are watching on Facebook, the people who are going to watch on YouTube, this is a very, very tragic day for the Jewish people. It's the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, the beginning of the Holocaust. November 9th, 1938, the Nazis under Adolf Hitler, Yamach Shemo, may his name be erased, unleashed up a Germany-wide pogrom that killed thousands of Jews, burned thousands of shuls, and began the process of annihilating 6 million Jews, which would take the Germans murdering 10,000 people a day for 4 years until the astronomical, unbelievable number of 6 million was achieved. Fast forward 85 years, and just a month ago, the Jewish people tragically experienced a Holocaust-level extinction event on October 7th of 2023, the day of Simchat Torah, Shmini Atzeret. It's traditionally observed as the happiest day of the Jewish calendar, and now it will be seen as one of the most tragic. 1,400 innocent people were savagely, barbarically massacred by the Hamas terrorists. The face of one of those victims has become the face of the 1,400. She has arguably become, in her martyrdom, the very face of the calamity, the catastrophe that befell the Jewish people at the hands of the Hamas terrorists, the genocidal Hamas terrorists. And her name was Shani Louk of blessed memory. And I am honored and saddened to be joined by her mother, who has agreed to speak to me, and for which I am so grateful. Ricardo, welcome to the show. And let me first express the inexpressible. Let me say the unsayable. Let me comfort in a way that is utterly uncomfortable. Your daughter Shani's loss is all of our loss. Your daughter Shani's murder is a death in each and every one of us. She is our daughter. She is our sister. And I cannot express how much grief we all feel. And I wish there was something I could do or say to relieve some of the unspeakable, unimaginable, infinite pain you must be experiencing. But I do thank you for agreeing to speak about your incredible daughter. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult loss and a difficult period the last month, and we went through a lot by thinking she was kidnapped first and then discovering that she was dead. So it's a lot of grief, and it's very painful.
Let's just retrace the steps for a moment. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about Shani. Where were you born? Where was Shani born?
I was born and grew up in Germany, and my daughter grew up in Israel, was born in Israel, but she's also a German citizen and an Israeli citizen. Yeah, she was a very happy, lively person. She liked music and dancing and living, and she was really enjoying until the last moment.
She seemed like an incredibly spirited young woman, a beautiful young woman, both inside and out, um, attractive in mind, in heart, in spirit. Um, how old was she?
She was 22 years old.
22 years old. Now, the attack took place. By the way, my wife is sitting next to me and is finding it difficult to even. I see she's getting emotional already listening. It's just too painful. Our daughter, who lives in Miami, Florida, was visiting her husband's family in Ashkelon uh, on Simchat Torah on October 7th. And she was trying to reach us. We don't answer the phone on the Jewish holidays. It was also Shabbat. And we finally got a non-Jewish friend to reach her, and she told us that she was in a hellscape of mortars, bombs, missiles, terrorists, and that was in Ashkelon. So we got a non-Jewish friend. In fact, at first I found out about the attack through a New York Police Department police officer, a very brave African-American police officer who opened his phone and showed me because we were terrified for our daughter. The first person we learned about was actually Shani Louk. She became the face of the tragedy. And I don't want to bring up anything painful. And Ricardo, if I say anything that is crosses the line, please stop me, because we want to tell Shani's story without causing you more pain, more grief. The first thing we learned was about Shani. because the Hamas savages had her in the back of a truck. Is that the first time that you knew that she had been, at the time you thought, kidnapped?
Yes, yes. When we saw the video, then everything was clear. I mean, we heard the bombs in the morning, and we had alarms in our place, and then we gave her a call and to see where she is and if she is going to a shelter. And then she said she's still on the festival and she's going to take her car and get out of there. And that was the last time we heard from her. We talked to her. And then maybe 2 hours later, we got this horrible video, and we just couldn't get it that this is our daughter, but we immediately recognized her by her tattoos and her hair and everything.
And the images that Hamas posted, the utter savagery, the barbarity, the inhumanity of those images shocked the world. So much so that even the New York Times, that doesn't always express a lot of sympathy for Israeli victims, has highlighted your daughter specifically in multiple stories. So what time did you last speak to Shani at the festival?
It was around 6:40, something like that. And later we discovered, a day or 2 days later, we discovered from other friends that were with her that they talked with her on the phone at around 7 and 5 minutes, and then they heard the shots and the phone got disconnected.
So you spoke to her at 6:40. Her friends reached her at 7. She told you she was going to get in her car. She acknowledged that there was an attack, and she told you that she would get out of in there and go to safety.
Yeah, at this point, I think she didn't know that there was an attack. She heard the alarms and there was the alarm, and she was panicking a little bit. She didn't say anything else about an attack, so I think it was just starting. And then she got to the car and she drove with two other people in her car, and they got captured on the road. They stopped them there, and they killed her friend on the spot, and her boyfriend is still captured and kidnapped. Yeah.
So Shani's friend was murdered on the spot, and Shani's friend's boyfriend is now a hostage.
Yes.
And so then 2 hours later, you saw the video and you knew it was your daughter. How did you see that video?
A friend sent it to my oldest son and said, "Look, this looks like Shani. This looks like Shani. Have a look. I don't understand what's going on." And then really, my husband, my son started crying, screaming, and we all watched the video and we were all shocked and crying, and it was just horrific to see this, and that this is your own daughter that is treated like this, like a trophy on the truck. And then we saw the full movie when they go through the Gaza Strip and they're cheering and celebrating and spitting on her, and it was such a humiliation, and I just couldn't get it that this is our little girl. So it was very difficult.
You know, you're having grown up in Germany and knowing the history of the Holocaust and seeing something like this, that a Jewish woman could be so humiliated, degraded, abused. But with Hamas, there's the added dimension of these frauds, these fakers calling themselves religious. If a woman were to walk around Gaza City, even showing her hair, they would probably shoot her, kill her, torture her, humiliate her. With your daughter, they crossed every line. They showed such not just inhumanity and barbarity, but an abrogation of every law of decency, of modesty, of religious piety. Did that add? And I'm sorry to ask this. Did that add to the pain that you and your family were experiencing?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's the worst you can think of that could happen to a family member, right? This this treatment, treating it like barbarians, like inhuman people, really evil people that do such a thing. That's it's unbelievable. You can't understand it. You can't really understand the way they're thinking. Even they're just inhuman.
And as they're doing it, they're screaming Allahu Akbar, that God is great, as if God is great through the murder of an innocent, helpless woman, as if God is great through the degradation of a woman. If you don't mind me asking you, Ricky, I actually wrote a book called Kosher Hate. I'm very close to the Christian community, and they believe that Jesus said, "Love your enemies and turn the other cheek to your enemies." And I always say to my Christian brothers and sisters, Jesus said, "Love your enemies, not God's enemies." Hamas is not your enemy; they're God's enemies. They're the enemies of humanity. They're the other enemies of morality, of decency. I mean, how do you feel when you saw this barbarity beyond the pain, the grief, beyond the shock, the horror? How do you feel to these Hamas terrorists? What do you feel about them?
I mean, those terrorists, I feel they're not human and they shouldn't be treated like human. They're really evil people. They just bring hate. They teach hate. They admire hate and hate acts that they're doing. And they don't want peace. They don't want to free Palestine. They just want to kill and cause pain and hate. That's how I see them. They're worse than animals. I mean, people that do this in this way specifically.
Are you being given any measure of comfort to see that Israel is fighting Hamas very hard now and pushing back against them, not as revenge? Everyone keeps on saying that Israel's taking revenge. I debated an anti-Semite today on an international TV show, Pierce Morgan, who said that you Jews love vengeance, you love blood. I mean, he's a Jew hater, and we've known about blood libels against the Jewish people for 2,000 years, ever since they started saying that we drink Christian blood. But I'm asking more in terms of, are you given a sense of comfort to see that Israel is, thank God, thus far, successfully neutralizing the Hamas threat? Are you given any comfort to see what the IDF is doing in Gaza?
I mean, I'm personally, I'm not a very revengeful person or hateful person. I really and I do feel sorry for the innocent people that are there still. But I'm happy to see that we really have to agree, and I think most of the politicians in Europe and America, they agree that the Hamas needs to be defeated and they need to be eliminated. They should not be able to do these threats anymore on Israel or on any other countries. And we need to be hard with the terrorists and try to avoid any civilians to be hurt there as well. I mean, I know it's difficult and it's a very complex situation and it's a very difficult fight they're doing there, but I don't see any other alternative at the moment. We really, it's so many years. It's going back and forth. They attack a little bit, we attack back, and then they grow their armies again, and all the money goes into the armies and teaching and the bombs, and they shoot the rockets again, and it's back and forth all the time, and we don't stop the terror. I mean, it's coming back and back. So we need to be a little bit more drastic and really fight together also with the other countries to stop those terror organizations. That's the enemy of everybody.
My hope in this interview was to amplify your voice, but little did I realize or anticipate that yours would be a voice of such compassion and humanity, but determination to focus specifically on eliminating the danger, the threat posed by Hamas while protecting the innocence of our Palestinian brothers and sisters who are not in any way responsible for the bloodthirstiness of Hamas. But Hamas is, as you said, they're animals, they're monsters, they're savages. Let me just go back for a moment. When I first saw the image of your daughter, I have to tell you, I have no words as to how I felt. I felt hatred for Hamas. I felt anger. I felt humiliation for the Jewish people, and above all else, I felt pain for you and your family, and especially, of course, for your daughter. We did not know if your daughter was alive or dead. I then saw an interview that I believe you gave 2 or 3 days later, where you said that you had heard that she was injured, that her arm had been injured, I think, or her leg had been injured, but she was being treated in a hospital. So is that what you were told, and by whom?
Yeah, we were told by someone that lives in Gaza, and we thought is a friend, or he was like in a peace organization, and he said that he heard that she's in a hospital with a bad head injury. So we did trust this information at the beginning, but probably it wasn't correct, and or maybe it was a misunderstanding with a different person. It could be. But at that point, it gave us the hope that she is still alive and that she will come back. Yeah, until we
Yeah, and
got the message.
I'm sorry to ask another painful question, but I saw on one of the American news channels, I think a day or two ago, that an Israeli father of a 9-year-old girl was originally told the opposite. He was told that his daughter had been killed in the October 7th massacre, and now he was told by the IDF that they're nearly certain that she's alive. And he was crying on TV, and he was saying that he almost preferred that she be dead. He didn't want her to suffer under the brutality of Hamas. She's a little girl. He didn't have to. I mean, who am I to understand this kind of horror? But you're saying that for you it was the opposite, that you were happy to hear that even if she was in captivity, under brutal Hamas captivity, that you were much happier to hear that she was alive.
I think it's very normal. The first reaction is you want them to be alive. You want them to come back, and you treat them, and they will they will be traumatized, but you will manage and you will get them back. I mean, this is the first reaction I think that probably most of the people think. When we got the message that she was dead, that she died at the beginning, it gave us some kind of relief because we knew then, oh, she didn't suffer all this. She wasn't even alive anymore on this pickup truck when they did those things to her, and when they took her, and when the bombs are falling on the other side. And every night I'm thinking about where she is, how she feels, and she's in the middle in the war zone. It's a terrible situation. So on this side, I was a little bit relieved. Okay, it's over, and she didn't feel pain. I mean, it was very quick. Probably she died very in the beginning, and so I can understand both situations. If you would tell me, okay, she is still alive, we will take this also with open hands, even though we know now it's really 1 month in captivity in this situation, and with her things that she passed already, it will be probably very traumatic at this point. But we would take anything, let's say. I mean, that's normal, I think.
The actual again, just sorry, a difficult question. The actual man who was in the back of the pickup truck with your daughter, uh, evil incarnate. Um, we don't know what happened to him, do we? We don't know if he was if he's okay, if he's walking around having a coffee in Gaza, if he's being attacked by the IDF. Do you feel a particular reprehension, almost hatred for a man like that? And let me just clarify my question. You know, women being brutalized by men is unfortunately something that has happened throughout history. Women being brutalized by religious men has also happened throughout history. Women being brutalized by fake religious men has happened even more. But this kind of spectacle, where a woman was murdered, A, because she was Jewish, B, because she was a woman, and then to be, as you said, paraded like a trophy. How do you feel towards that man that was on the back of the truck showing such contempt for another human being?
Yeah, I mean, by chance, I know that he's not alive anymore. This I can say already, but it didn't give me a relief or something knowing that. And I didn't specify on this person specifically. I think all of them are barbarians that did those things. I mean, there's so many stories, so many people, so many friends of us that had a loss and or were kidnapped, and they suffered a lot. So they're all the same for me. And yeah, I just can say, I mean, they're like animals. They're worse than animals. I mean, animals, they don't even uh, cut up the trophy into pieces and things, right? I mean, they're even worse than animals. And that's the way I see them. Nothing else.
I agree. I think that the English language, even the Hebrew language, is limited in expressing the magnitude of evil that these people represent. I mean, the only Hebrew word I can come up with is a toeva. These people are human abominations, and in English we struggle to find a word that will really capture the savagery, the barbarism. When Shani was missing, when you did not yet know, when you still believed that she was alive, was the German government helpful? And I know that the German chancellor came, and I know that he had to lie down on the floor of Ben Gurion because there was a red alert, Qassam rocket alert when he first arrived. But did you find the German government helpful?
Yeah, I think they are very helpful. Actually, I hear most of the voices in Europe supporting Israel, I think, come really from Germany. And they were really coming, and the foreign minister and Scholz, they came to Israel, they saw those places, they talked with the people of the German hostages. We went to Berlin, we met many parties there, and they were very moved and very, very supported. I mean, every party really was fully supporting Israel and condemn what they did there. And I think we see that they're doing some actions, and they're doing also the negotiations, but as we can all see, there is no results yet, right? So nobody really succeeded to get out really the hostages at the moment. I mean, that's a problem. We don't have results yet, but they were very listening, and we had a contact person all the time, and they were updating us as much as they could.
Did you feel that Germany had any kind of potential contacts with Hamas that Israel did not have? Did they have any kind of intelligence that Israel did not have? Were they helpful in a way that the Israeli government could not be?
I don't think they have any contact to Hamas, but they're trying it through the other countries, right? With Qatar and Egypt, Turkey. I think those are the negotiation partners. But I mean, all those negotiations are also stuck. It seems to be. I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but we can say that more than a month, and they're still there, the hostages.
You know, when 11 Israeli hostages were murdered on German soil in 1972 at the Munich Olympics, I'm 56 years old. It's one of the earliest memories. So I was born in 66. I was 6 years old at the time. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the face of that. His name was Isa, the main terrorist, black in face with the white cap. I remember his devilish face. I remember it like it was yesterday. And what was particularly horrible was here we were 30 years after the Holocaust and Jews were being murdered in Germany again. The fact that Shani was a German Israeli, I think also resonated greatly throughout the world. Just even hearing that German Israeli. And again, tonight is Kristallnacht. What does that mean to you that this is a Jewish woman with Israeli citizenship, but German citizenship, murdered again in the year 2023, when we always say never again is never again, that Jewish life will one day be respected, that Jewish life will one day be valuable. Are you maybe in shock? Not that this has happened, of course, which is absolutely shocking, but at the global state of denial about the tsunami of anti-Semitism, the lack of sympathy for Israel. I like what you said that in Germany, many people seem to be supporting Israel, but that's not happening in places like England. It's not happening in Belgium. It's not happening in Spain. It's not happening in Italy, where I was at the Vatican the other day. It's not happening. Even the United States is being very supportive, thank God. But otherwise, the United Nations is already blaming Israel. And you saw that on American campuses, we have young people saying that Israel deserved these attacks. Harvard students said that Israel invited this violence. As a German Israeli woman, are you shocked that all this is happening?
It is, yeah, it's very shocking. I mean, to see all those rallies against Israel, and it's always disturbing to see this. And I mean, we went there in Berlin, and we talked to the parliament there, and we told them, we said, you said always never again, never again. You can't say this anymore. It just happened last week. That's what we told them, and they said, you're right. You're right. We can't say this anymore. You're right. It happened again, and we shouldn't have let this happen again. And we said I mean, they chose Israel as the place where all the Jews can come together and live. I mean, and now again, this country is in danger again. I mean, this is not a safe place then anymore for the Jews. We have to make sure that Israel keeps existing and keeps to be a safe place for the Jews.
You know, I have a daughter that lives in Jerusalem. You were communicating with her by email, on WhatsApp, and we have another son who's in yeshiva. He's 17 years old in Jerusalem. Then we have a son that's in the army, and he's on a border that I'm not going to mention. And when we have another son who's in the army, he's somewhere that I'm not going to mention. We're a family deeply committed to Israel, thank God. Um, so again, I apologize for this question, but let me ask you this, if you don't mind, Ricky. Now that you're kind of pointing out that Israel was set up, the original vision of Theodore Herzl was not only to have a Jewish state; it was to have a Jewish state where anti-Semitism would no longer exist, a Jewish state where Jews would no longer tremble, a state where Jews would no longer be afraid. Given that you moved from Germany to Israel, from Europe to Israel, Europe being the place for 2,000 years, pogroms, auto da fes, expulsions, and culminating, of course, in the Holocaust. Now that you've had a daughter who's been murdered in a terror attack in Israel, do you have any regrets, or is Israel your eternal home?
No, I don't have any regrets, really. I like it here. I love it here. And and the people here are so beautiful now, especially, they're so working together now and helping each other. It's amazing. I mean, you don't have many countries that really work together like in this terrible situation, and everybody is helping each other. It's amazing. There's a lot of power in between the people. Not whatever is lacking in the government at the moment, we have it in the people, and they're very strong, and I'm happy to be here.
When Rabbi Leo D lost his last Pesach, so whenever 8 months ago, Rabbi Leo D, of course, experienced a Holocaust level extinction of his family. His wife and two daughters were murdered. Now, Rabbi D's wife, was my student at the time. She was Lucy D, but then she was Lucy Shaw. We knew her in the early 90s when I was the rabbi at Oxford University. And I remember the first question they asked him is that, since you made Aliyah from England, do you regret coming to Israel? And he said, never. This is the eternal Jewish homeland. So you're reaffirming that Israel is the place where you want to be, where your family wants to be. You just want it to be safe and secure. What would you, in the wake of having lost such a vibrant, beautiful daughter, such a vibrant, beautiful soul in a terror attack, what would you like to see happen now? What are your, if I could ask you, your 2 or 3 priorities for the state of Israel right now, what would they be?
I mean, to eliminate all those terror attacks, not only here, also in the world and everywhere, and to live here peacefully, right? Without worries, without rockets that are shooting. I mean, we have this terrible routine of those rockets for years. I mean, people outside, they don't understand that every few months or half a year, there are rocket attacks, and we have alarms, and we have to go to the shelter, and we just see this as a normal routine. But it's not normal. It's very unnormal that we live in this situation like this. It's crazy. I mean, nobody just has rocket alarms and then goes to a shelter just like that. And yeah, we just want to live in peace, and we don't want to conquer anyone. We don't want to oppress anyone. We just want to be in peace with the others. That's all.
What are your priorities that you would give the government? So you want the government to destroy the terror organizations. Is there anything else that you would like to see?
I mean, get the hostages back. That's the worst at the moment. I just so feel with those families. It's the horrible time I have ever had, those 3 weeks when we were waiting and not knowing what's happening, and just waiting and waiting, and you don't get any updates, no conditions of the hostages. You're completely blind, and you're worrying constantly, and they have to get them back as soon as possible.
How did you finally find out that Shani was not a hostage and she had been murdered?
They came from the army and the rabbi, and they told us in the middle of the night, knocked on our door, and they said that Shani is not alive anymore. And they found this piece of her skull that was found on Israeli soil, that without this piece, nobody can live. A human being cannot live. So, so this gave us a proof that she died on the spot, and then her body was taken, and she wasn't alive anymore.
And again, please forgive me for this question. I don't want to cause any pain. Has there been a burial? Has there been a memorial? Has there been Kaddish? Has there been Shloshim? Has there been any memorials for your daughter?
I mean, we did the normal Shiva and Kaddish, but we don't have a burial state. We don't have a grave, and because we don't have the body, and we decided to wait now. When the hostage situation will be over, hopefully, maybe the body will come back, and then we can bury her and do a funeral. And if not, we will create a memorial place without the body. We said we will have a place to mourn in any case.
Well, Bli Neder, I'd like to commit, God willing, in this broadcast that we're doing together to assist you in creating that and ensuring that Shani is remembered in Israel, in the Holy Land. I don't only mean, God willing, having a proper Jewish burial, but to have her memory serve as an inspiration to the Jewish people and to humanity beyond. I just have a final question, if you don't mind. In this time that, see, I spend my time fighting anti-Semites. I really wish I didn't have to. I served as Oprah Winfrey's marriage, parenting, and relationship expert. My motto was much more: make love and not war, a loving world, saving marriages. I'm a child of divorce. But the assault on our people has been so vicious. And I saw it at Oxford beginning in 1988 when I became the rabbi there, that I had to shift gears and begin to defend my people. And then my sons and my daughter decided they're going to go to the ITF because they wanted to do even more than I was doing, which is debating people on TV. They wanted to actually serve. And we're all shocked at the lack of sympathy that Jewish life, 85 years to the day of Kristallnacht, still has so little value throughout the world, especially in places like Europe and the United Nations. So I guess here's my final question. The first celebrity that I saw 2 days after the attack express any kind of connection to Israel without being afraid that they're going to be attacked by their Hollywood friends, they're going to be attacked by their anti-Semitic friends. You know, we know that Roger Waters is a dyed-in-the-wool Jew hater, disgusting human being. But out of the blue, U2, the famous Irish rock band, some consider the most famous band in the world, and their lead singer, what's his name again? Bono, of course, Bono. He gave those beautiful words that summed up the concert, the party that your daughter was at. Stars of David, October 7th, morning, they could take your life, but they couldn't take your pride. Did that give you any measure of comfort that the world was beginning to reflect on the magnitude of the tragedy that your daughter had been involved in?
Yeah, when we met in Germany, all the politicians, they were so moved, and you can see it in their eyes that they told us also, this could have been my daughter, this could have been my son. They also go to festivals. They were so close on feeling it, what went through us, what we experienced, and they were really with us. I mean, this is really touching the heart usually of many people. I mean, again, the news from the Gaza now are overwhelming on the other side. So we're losing sympathy again, I think. But I think there was a lot of sympathy there in the beginning to many people, different than and in previous attacks, I guess, because it was so unhuman, and it was so, the most peaceful persons were attacked, young people, teenagers, they came to celebrate, to hear music and dance, and then they were so viciously attacked in this brutal event. And I mean, normal people, they can't just look away from this. That's and we saw this in many people, and we saw that the media it did change a little bit, but I'm a little bit afraid and disappointed that we're now losing this again, and everything is turned upside down a little bit now. It's, and no, people already forgetting why this all started, who started this, and how it started, in what way. How can you compare a vicious attack on the most innocent and vulnerable people, old people, young people, kids, women, teenagers, right? They attacked they targeted a very specific group of people and do it very cruelly. And then you compare it with civilians that are killed in a war attack, which is a defending war attack. I know there is no war you can do without any civilians hurt, unfortunately, right? If somebody could do this, we would definitely Israel would do this. But it's not the same. It's like two different things. You can't compare this one with that one.
And of course, Hamas specifically utilizes civilians to protect their fighters.
Right.
To Hamas, a child is essentially a bulletproof vest. Ricky, I've spent the past few days working very hard to get my son's unit in the IDF bulletproof vest. There's been a shortage because Israel called up 400,000 soldiers in a day. So there's been a shortage of equipment. So Baruch Hashem, thank God we were able to get a lot of vests, my son's units, other units, helmets, essential gear. Hamas just takes a child. That's their bulletproof vest. So the Palestinian people exist in order to humiliate Israel. They want to see Palestinian civilian casualties so that sympathy for Israel will erode. That's why you're being very brave and courageous, discussing things that are painful and that most people would want to bury and that most people would want to suppress. You're very courageous in speaking about it so that we don't forget why we're fighting this war. So we don't forget, so that I've spent my life trying to defend my people, but also to remember the 6 million. I took my children to more than probably 100 Holocaust sites. I've written a book on the Holocaust. I was very close to Elie Wiesel. Kristallnacht has always had a very strong resonance for me. And we have to bear witness. And my kids always have thought that I was crazy taking them to Auschwitz, Birkenau, Treblinka, Sachsenhausen, Grossrosen, and Majdanek. I could go on, all these terrible places. But I said to them, I'm sorry. It sears the soul. It causes psychological pain. It causes PTSD. But we have to bear witness, because if we forget, it will happen again, God forbid. And I think Jews today are more scared than ever. When I was just in Israel for the past 2 weeks, we really came for my son's wedding. An IDF soldier's wedding was supposed to be a celebration. But I arrived in Ben Gurion Airport, and the first thing I did is I went with a minister of the government, because it's a closed military zone, to Be'eri and to Kfar Aza and to Sderot and all the places where it was a week before that the attack had happened. And I saw the congealed blood of the families. I have seen some horrible things in my life. I was in Haiti 3 or 4 days after the 2011 earthquake, where 250,000 people were crushed by buildings, and their bodies were all still in the rubble, and the stench of death was unbearable. And I saw things that I can't even describe. But Be'eri was worse. It was much worse. And it's so important that we relate Shani's story, and not just the story of her death, the story of her life, the story of who she was and the vibrancy. And that's what you most see about her. In the beautiful pictures of her, you see the smile, you see the radiance, you see the glow. I did not know your daughter, but I know her soul just by seeing the peacefulness, the harmony, what she was reaching for something higher, as were those young people, or to use Bono's words, those kids at the concert. They were reaching for something higher. That Israel should not just be a place where we have to have tanks and where we have to have artillery, but it should be a place where we have music and we have festivals. And I salute your daughter's life, and I salute your courage. And is there any last thing that you'd like to share with us, please?
No, I just hope that they will remember Shani, really, as you said, like she was really the light of us and of the people, and in the musical festivals, and also amongst her friends, and not to remember her only on this terrible video. Yeah, that's what I wish.
And Ricky, if there's anything that we can do, there's many people that are watching, and this is being recorded. We're going to get it out to a lot of people. If there's anything that we can do, if there's any memorials, is there any way that people can be in touch, or is there a website? Is there anything that we can do?
Um, no, we don't have anything. I'm interviewing a lot, and just to keep it alive, to keep it in the media, to bring the word out, and that's what we're doing to help also the other people that are still there.
Well, if we can help you set up a website, God willing, to raise money so that we can do a proper memorial of what Shani represented and bring that light to other young people. Just imagine, Ricky, imagine for a moment, it seems impossible, if Palestinian women would have the freedom, the simple freedom to be themselves, like your daughter had living in Israel, the simple freedom to sing, to dance, to say what you want, dress how you want, speak how you want, live how you want. That is a freedom that is denied hundreds of millions of our Arab sisters in countries throughout the Middle East. Even that freedom, and that's what Hamas wanted to destroy and murder. They want to destroy humanity itself. These are dark, wretched, devilish, demonic souls who want to control people. They will kill their own. They are much worse even to the Arabs and Palestinians than they are to the Jews. Their brutality against their own is even more savage. But let me bless you with God's comfort. It's in no way comparable, but I lost my mother 7 months ago. I'm in a Kaddish year myself. I lost my father during COVID 3 years before that. He was 87, my mother was 80, but my mother's 80th birthday, and it was just her 81st birthday, October 23rd. But last year on her 80th birthday, October 23rd, we had a party for her. We did the same thing that Shani was doing. We danced. My mother was dancing. We were so happy, and we lost her a month later, and I'm still in shock, just like that. Now you can't compare it, of course, but loss is loss and grief is grief. And honestly, I wish that I wasn't so limited as a human being not to be able to grant you the comfort that you need and deserve. But if there is a project that you want us to highlight, you'll tell me later and we'll put it out everywhere. And God bless you and thank you so much. And God bless and comfort your family.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
And thank you very much, Chuck, for setting this up. Thank you.